Welcome everybody to the October 2022 edition of the Southeast chapter of AAAE's Coffee Conversations, hosted by the Corporate Committee. My name is Cody Parham with HDR. Glad to have you here, folks. For those of you this is your first time joining us, this is an informal, short conversation meant for just a quick break in the morning from the daily routine and to catch up with our colleagues across the Southeast. So welcome everybody. I hope you have all brought your fresh, hot or cold coffee, however you like it. You got to sit in here and we're ready to begin. A few housekeeping notes. We do encourage you to share your video if you are able, but we do ask you to please mute if you are not currently talking. We welcome interruptions, we welcome questions and veering off the script. And we do promise to get you out of here by 10:45 Eastern time. So with that, I will hand things over to Shelly. Oh, wait, before I do want to thank Shelly Armato with MySmartPlans for being this month's sponsor. If you would like to sponsor a future coffee conversation or be a panelist or a host, please reach out to me or Corporate Committee Chair Ryan Sizemore. Ryan's email address is in the chat and I will put mine in there too. So that's the housekeeping and I'll turn things over to Shelly. Take it away.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So this morning they asked, like, do you have a presentation? How is this going to work? And so we decided, Kelvin and I, that this is going to be like a total coffee conversation. So I hate PowerPoint, so there is no PowerPoint. But I want to start off with my co-host, Kelvin. And Kelvin, do an introduction about you, and then we'll take it away from there. You're muted.
Well, yeah, that shows that I can follow instructions, Cody, just FYI. But good morning, everybody. I'm Kelvin Solco. I'm with the Solco Group, LLC, and we're a planning, engineering, research, FAA coordination firm. We have a number of services that we offer our clients. I'm actually based here in Southeast Texas, but of course, we service a lot of clients all across the South, Southeast, Southwest. And I'm probably better known for my former career with the FAA. So I had a wonderful 36-year career with the FAA where I started out as a civil engineer, just putting nav aids on different airports around the country, and then kind of graduated to airport engineering, airport planning, the AIP program, worked my way up the management ranks. I actually worked in both the Southern and the Southwest region of FAA and the management positions, and served as the regional director for the Southwest region for about 9.5 years. In my last position of record, I served as a regional administrator for the Southwest region in Fort Worth, Texas. So I'm very happy to be with you this morning. Good morning.
Thank you, Kelvin. So I met Kelvin, how many years ago, Kelvin? I don't know.
Let's see, was that 5 years ago?
It was a while. And Kelvin's like, wait, what do you do? You're solving all these problems. So we've been friends ever since. So Kelvin is the guy that if you have an FAA issue, you call Kelvin and Kelvin answers the phone and says, okay, what? And then Kelvin says, well, that's on page 743, volume 7. I'm making this up because I don't know all the volumes. Volume 7, paragraph 2.17. There's your answer. So I love Kelvin. So, okay, so we decided today that not only are we going to have fun today, we are going to have giveaways because I sit in on all these meetings and typically everybody's got themselves muted and, you know, no one wants to ask questions. I mean, blah, blah, blah. So in the era of COVID, I've come up with games because it's like so important to have questions. So we have giveaways. So every time you ask a question, we have certain things you get to pick from the giveaway. So here's our options. We have Starbucks. This is actually water, but this would be in the form of a gift card for $20. We have a candle. This candle is for peace and relaxation. And it's so amazing. So it's made here in Kansas City. It's called Good Vibes. So you get to pick. And then we also have a book that Kelvin just authored, and I have read it, and it's so amazing. Yeah, okay, you got to back it up a little bit. Okay, so yeah, it's about the lessons learned on monkey bars. And so again, our goal here is to have conversations and solve problems in the industry. A little bit about myself. I am a subcontractor's wife, which I get a lot of stuff about because people are like, what would a subcontractor's wife know? Well, I know what it's like to be married to someone in the industry. I know what it's like to have someone suffering with trying to get information. I know what it's like to make decisions off of misinformation and complete information. And I know what it's like to catch yourself up on the contract. So 16 years ago, my husband and I started this business in a garage, actually 700 square foot garage and $15,000, and we bootstrapped it for 16 years. Whenever KCI here in Kansas City was building, we were like, oh, let's go build every airport in the world. So basically our solution manages all the documentation as a third party. We keep everything organized, complete, audit ready. So we came up with a list of some questions that you might want to ask a former FAA employee, genius, and someone that's seen all the documents on all the projects. We're managing, I don't even know how many projects across the United States now. We just spoke at the aviation conference in Amsterdam. And we found out that this is a chronic problem across the world. It's not just here in the United States that we didn't figure out. It's a chronic problem across the world. The documents are less than organized, let's just say. It's an issue, because when the FAA comes in and says, hey, we're going to audit you, the first thing that happens is a phone call from someone that's terrified, that might need a candle that says peace and you'll be fine. And the phone call says, I just got a letter and we're going to be audited. Are we ready for that? And the other end of the phone says, you're my boss, so I'm going to tell you yes, because I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job of the findings. So we're saying, let's hang up the phone. Everything's organized. You'll be fine. So some of the questions you might ask us this morning on our Coffee and Learn, which, by the way, I have my coffee here. You might ask us, would I have a competitive advantage with having all my documentation organized? You might ask us, well, what's it like to run a project audit ready? I mean, what would I expect? I mean, what kind of questions would I be asked if I had an audit ready project? And then another question might be like, is there a strategy in place for me to make this happen? Is it going to be painful? Is it going to be something that I have to like do so much more work? One other question is like, what would I do with all this data? I mean, you mean you're telling me I would have access to all the data? Another question you might ask us is, how do we get on your calendar? So Kelvin and I mean, we're probably unique in the fact, Kelvin, that we answer our phone. I mean, I have my cell phone here, my actual other phone is forwarded to my cell phone, and we have a one ring policy. It says if the phone rings once, we answer it, because we know you're not calling to be our friend. You're calling because you have an issue. So I tell all my coworkers, answer the phone on the first ring and find out what the challenge is and deliver the solution. So those are the kind of questions that we're hoping to be asked this morning. Our chat line is open. And so anybody have a question for us to get started with? Joe, you do, because I can tell you got your camera on. That's a new office. You have your paper stacked up. You're ready to go. So give us a question.
Today, I don't have any questions for this particular one. I'm here to participate and absorb.
Okay, you're going to get a thumbs down. Where's the emojis? Who's in charge of emojis? I'm kidding. And okay, so then we don't have a question. So does anyone have a question?
Well, Shelley, can I?
Yes.
Yeah, Shelley, can I just do a little bit just for the group, just FYI? So, now here's the disclaimer. Of course, I'm not currently with the FAA. I did serve, like I said, for 36 years, and now we have a firm pretty much that tries to mirror everything that I did in an airport district office. I actually provide that as a service now. But I want to take you behind the curtains of the FAA just a little bit, if anybody finds that interesting, and just talk, I guess, from my personal experience and see if this is helpful to all of you as part of our chat. So first of all, just know that while I worked at the FAA, one of my favorite programs was, of course, the Airport Improvement Program, AIP. And when you work for the FAA, particularly in the airport district office, you're trained very, very well on all the requirements of the program, the policy. We're trained about statutes, reauthorization. I mean, they're kind of hammered. And of course, some of you know, you've worked with your ADOs. They are some of the best in the business at not only their individualized, specialized skill, whether it be planning, engineering, environmental, whatever, but they're really good at understanding the policy because that's their job. And so what I did often, as often as I could as an FAA official, I would get out and visit airports. And I would, sometimes I'd give them a heads up and tell them I'm coming, and sometimes I would not. Sometimes I would show up, but I tried not to do that too often. And often when I would sit down with an airport sponsor, an airport owner, after all the small talk and chit chat, I would ask some specific questions and hint, just to kind of see how well that airport is managing the AIP program. Just being fully transparent, not to pick on anybody. It wasn't an audit. I wasn't there to catch anyone or got you or nothing like that. I was just curious to know how well my team was working with all of their airport counterparts in the program. So I did it for my benefit. One of the things that we really wanted to see if everyone was prepared for was the Single Audit Act of 1984, OMB A133. What that means is I wasn't launching out my team members to go out and do audits, AIP audits at airports, but I wanted to know if airports were familiar with Grant Assurance 13, which is, of course, your accounting, your systems audit, and the record keeping grant assurance that you're responsible for. Well, one of the reasons that was important because I pressed my team to make sure that they work with airports to do efficient and quick project closeout. Once we obligated AIP dollars, finish the project, get all the project information, keep it organized, readily available, something that can be retrieved easily, and then, of course, close out so that, again, for archive purposes and record keeping, it can be maintained not only for 3 years as required by the policy, but also in perpetuity. Well, fast forward. So after leaving the agency, when I met Shelley and I looked at the MySmartPlans platform, the first thing I asked myself is, why didn't something like this exist when I worked for FAA? I would have loved to have met Shelley before I left the FAA, because again, when I looked at the platform for record keeping, document management control, and the project information managers, how they do the work for a particular client or sponsor, then the work would be a lot easier for me as FAA to go to someone during my unannounced visits, sit down with them at their PC, ask a question with a few clicks of a button, they could pull up whatever I asked about and look for. That would have impressed me. So I just wanted to share that little inside tip that I was impressed immediately when I saw the platform for MySmartPlans.
Yeah, that's why we've had all these conversations. Kelvin and I do the whole texting. Like first we talk about our grandbabies and our families, and we're like, oh yeah, Kelvin, by the way. So also Kelvin's been instrumental in the FAA supporting us. So there's actually provision that we would be supported with the grant. So talk about that, Kelvin.
Yeah, absolutely. So after, of course, working with the platform, MySmartPlans, Shelley and I, we were successful in working with one of the previous associate administrators of airports. At the time, it was Mr. Kurt Schaefer. And he worked with us and the planning side of the house to make sure that the use of the MySmartPlans platform is eligible for AIP under the administrative expenses. So in other words, anyone that wants to use the platform and include it in an AIP project, you need to make sure you go to your ADO, whether it be program manager, planner, engineer, or whatever, or the regional office, but go to your counterpart at FAA and let them know that you'd like to use this as your tool to make sure you meet the requirements of Grant Assurance 13, and it is eligible for AIP.
Yeah, that's been an adventure. So we've had Dr. Kirk Schaefer. I was in DC, I don't know, 2 or 3 times with him. And every time he was just like, wow, okay, this makes so much sense. So we're not here just to talk about commercial about what we do. We're here to talk about what can we do together as an organization of the airport industry. Because what we found from speaking at all of our airport conferences and all of our airports that we're supporting across the country and potentially the globe, there's one that's, I still can't believe I'm in this conversation with this mega airport. But anyway, we're solving the problem. But what we found out is there's so much need for that universal data for all the airports. So like, for instance, we're building KCI and they're using a different kind of, I'm not going to be specific, but a different kind of system for their windows. And so what we found out, there's other airports that are using that same kind of system, but the warranties were different. And so we're like, how do we as a community say, why would this warranty be different than this warranty? And if this warranty expires and I didn't do my service or I used the wrong kind of chemical to clean this glass, I'm making stuff up right now, trying to be neutral about the conversation. So I voided the warranty because I used the wrong kind of cleaner. This is extreme, but an example. And how is that same kind of condition on this warranty? So we're creating this global database that says, here is the data, here's what is being used. It's all, of course, opt-in. So we're not just saying to everyone, oh, well, here, go ahead, you can have this. We're asking our airport clients, do you mind if we collaborate with other airports? And then, of course, you have control over who gets who, what, when, and where. But our goal is much like Google or much like Uber. Whenever Uber was founded, we laughed because I think the guy's, I call the guy Randy. I found out that's not his real name that created Uber. I don't know who it is. I make stuff up, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, he took a bad taxi cab ride. He's like, I'm never doing this again. The same thing with my husband. He suffered on his last project because he was asked to bid projects that weren't complete and organized. And then he was asked to play the game of, and we all know what games are played, to support the contract. And so he's like, I'm never doing this again. And so we just keep on doing better. So every time we have a client, like for instance, one of our new clients that we're just starting, we met with their compliance division and they said, the challenge is that people are registering for the project, they get the contract. The minute the contract signed, everybody goes into their corners. Before the contract signed, we're all friends. The contract signed, we all go in our corners. We acquire the data that we need to support the contract, and then they cancel their insurance policy. And we don't know the insurance policy has been canceled until there's a claim. So what we did is we're like, oh, that's a great idea. I bet other airports are suffering with that. So we changed our registration page. We're like, now whenever you register, we're going to upload all of your insurance documents and any other information you need to support the contract. It'll be vaulted. And then our team, our project information managers, will actually read those documents, confirm that they have the correct data and that they are live documents, that they're not going to cancel them tomorrow because now they have the contract. So now we've created a whole nother system that Kelvin, you don't know about, that it just comes from having questions and saying, hey, we're experiencing this. And it takes a lot of guts to say I'm experiencing this challenge. But hey, I think we have a question. Nathan, do you have your hand up, Nathan? I'm serious. This is emoji. We have a question. Go, Nathan.
Yeah, thanks, Shelley. So I have a question about the system, which will be real quick, and then a question for Kelvin, just with his experience. And
Okay.
the question with the system is, can this program be used to go back and file historical data, or is it really only for projects moving forward?
Great question. So it's actually, we can go back, and we're in the middle of a project right now where we're going in and scanning all of their old, if they call it the snake pit, we're going in and scanning all those drawings. We're making them smart, which I can show you that later, but and then we're putting it in the platform. We're also using that data to integrate into your facility work order management system. So, whether you're using Maxima or whatever you're using, we have the ability to migrate that so that day one is live and moving forward. Okay, but wait, before we go forward, which gift can we send you? You were the first one to ask a question.
I get a gift just for asking a question?
Yes, that's the whole plan. This is the game I'm playing. Yes. We have a candle, we have Starbucks, we have a book. You get to pick.
I want the book. It needs to be signed though, right?
Okay, all right. Got it. Working on
Kelvin, this is just too much. I'm kidding. Yes. Okay, so Nathan, put your contact on the chat so we can get it. But okay, what's the question for Kelvin?
Yeah, so Kelvin, we found a lot of times that it seems like the first answer is always no. How do you recommend airports politely and tactfully keep asking the same question over and over till they get the answer that they want?
Well, first, let me back you up. So before we get to know, the way to get the FAA on the yes track is to make sure that you're working with your ADO in advance to do what they call the capital planning process for a project, which happens actually 3 years before a project happens. Now, you know the requirements, like the initial planning that takes place, there's environmental, and so you go through the whole gamut before you even get to plans and specs that are ready before the year that you're ready to receive a grant. So what happens is, if you're working with the FAA well in advance, you're clearing out all the no's. You'll get the no's most of the time when you come into the middle of that 3-year process or the end of the 3-year process, and you're asking for something that wasn't a part of the plan. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I'm gonna say it another way. So what happens is, when I was at FAA, 3 years out, I kind of wanted a vision or a view of about how much entitlement was going to go with certain airports, how much discretionary could potentially go for a particular project, how many projects that I had in the queue based on the, I'm sure you're familiar with the needs as part of the NIPIA's report. I know I'm getting in the weeds, but the point is, so here I am, I'm at my desk, and I kind of got in my head, this is where my program is going. And then when someone asks a question in the middle of the process that I haven't planned for, it'll stump me just a little bit. So the safe thing to do at that point is to say no for now or not yet or something like that. I'd find a diplomatic way to do it so that I can go back and see if it'll make an adjustment in the process. So that's the first thing to keep in mind is work with the ADO well in advance. That's number one. Now, when you get the no, and I just, again, I could do this because I'm outside the FAA. This is so much fun. I couldn't say this when I was inside, but so when you get the no, there's a process or a sequence of points of contact. And you got to follow this particular protocol. I'll go through it very quickly. First, you work with your ADO, Airport District Office contact at that lowest level. If that's a program manager, planner, whoever it is, you start there. Then you let them know as a courtesy that you'd like to go to their boss, their supervisor, which is the ADO manager. And then you take the case there, and I'm not sure what the question is. And then the next step would be, of course, your regional director. Then I loved it when my clients, my airport sponsors would say, hey, I understand that you're saying no, but I'd like to take this to Washington, to one of the Washington executives. When someone told me that, if it was a big enough issue, I would say, great, I'll go with you. So imagine me going to Washington to meet my boss, but I'm going with you. That just has a bigger impact. So then you've got your question at that level. And then if all else fails, depending on what the situation is, if it's a big enough issue, a global issue, now you're ready for your legislative contacts. And that's a whole different animal. I just want to caution you on that, just following that protocol. So let me stop there, Nathan. Does any of that answer the question? Did I hit around it, or what do you think?
No, that's great. I really appreciate it, Kelvin.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. So that's the process. That's what I recommend even now, on this side of the fence, that just follow those steps and, be diplomatic all along the way, and then you won't have any issues. And if it is a no, then it should be a no. That's a global no. And this is a problem I hear from most people, Nathan. Most people will say that, hey, I heard an airport in California was able to do it, but an airport in Vermont was told no. Well, that gets kind of addressed at that Washington level, if that makes sense.
Okay, Nathan, we got your contact, so we'll be sending you a new book. But and on top of all that conversation, Kelvin, I think, a lot of our clients will go in and we'll say, well, do you know Kelvin Sokol? And our clients will say, we don't like the FAA. We do not want to work with the FAA. And so I'm like, but do you know Kelvin? I mean, no, wait a second. But do you know Kelvin? Because I mean, this has been the experience with you. It's not, you're just like this walking, living Google library of possibilities. You have this ability not to come in. Trust me, I've been in so many airport projects. And a lot of times there's such a fence up. It's like, let's see, how would I explain it? It's like a turf battle. It's like a turf battle. I'm not going to share my data. I'm going to keep it over here because this is my majesty. This is what I created, not realizing the good of the project with that collaboration and that data being available for you to be able to take a look at and say, okay, well, we could do this differently. I know one particular projects that you're working on, I was just like, did you call Kelvin? I mean, I had to say it like 10 times. And finally they called Kelvin and it was like, oh, I get a phone call back. I don't know what I would have done without Kelvin. I'm like, you would have gotten a no, and you would have gotten a bunch more fees to get to just the facts. This is just the facts. And that's what our solution does. It provides the facts for all stakeholders and provides that platform. So thank you for your question. But we have time for another one now. Okay, I see everybody's hand raised. Let's see who wants to go first. You guys are laughing. Cody, you're laughing. Oh, Cody has a question. Okay, I was kind of making that up that there was like a bunch of hands raised because I'm like, this is a game. So, okay, Cody, what?
Yeah, I was curious. For those of us who hadn't had the pleasure of going through an FAA audit before, I'm sure there's an advisory circular or some sort of a brief that we can reference that gets us prepared for that inevitability. Kelvin, can you direct us to some official guidance on that process?
Yeah, they actually, I don't have a link ready to queue up for you. I'm going to try to, on the next break I get, I'll try to queue up a link. But let me just talk a little bit about the audit process, OMB A133. So for all airports, or actually all government entities that receive federal funding in a given year of $500,000 or more, we're all supposed to prepare for an audit, even though we may not get a call or whatever. And also, we're required to do an annual audit and have it ready to submit. And for the actual audit that we're talking about, that would probably be done by the Department of Transportation, or it could be GAO, but more likely OST. They do not disclose how they pick or select or determine where an audit would be. What they will do, though, is they'll take input from the airport side of the house in Washington, D.C. So you don't know that they're coming. You're supposed to always be prepared. You're supposed to always have your documentation ready to go no matter what. And then what happens is, of course, if there is an audit, you'll be contacted in writing well in advance. You'll be given an opportunity to at least prepare or get records together. They'll give you instructions on what you should submit or not, or give you an opportunity to ask questions before the actual audit happens. So what I'll do is, and I'm going to try to quickly queue it up real quick on the, if I've answered the question, I'm going to take a quick look and see if I can queue up the link for you. But does that get you going, Cody, for now?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay. So Cody, what's your prize? Can I get you, what you want, another book? I mean, are you going to, only Kelvin's going to get to give away stuff, or do I get the joy of giving you something amazing?
Well, I'm going to abstain from now. Thank you, Shelley. But as a member of the leadership team here, I feel like that would be, it wouldn't pass an audit for me to take a gift on this one.
A $5 gift card. I thought there was like a minimum that you could get. I don't know. We send out $5 gift cards because we think, well, that's pretty much under the radar. I don't know. But if you change your mind, yeah.
Well, Cody just did an inside joke. He just did a joke.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I did get the joke, Kelvin. I just was avoiding the response because I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen a lot. So, okay. Anyway, okay. Anybody else have a question that we want to do a rapid fire on? Okay. So then I'll go with another thought-provoking idea. So the data. So we have about 1,900 contracts in our database of different contract styles, just for different deliverables, different P3s, blah, blah, blah. But some of the changes that we're seeing in the contract is a different kind of ask for the turnover, or what the conversation now, everyone is talking about the digital twin. So we have a version of the digital twin that we have created, but it includes all the videos. It includes all of the everything. I mean, all of the emails. We're basically saying to these projects, what would it look like to run audit ready, preparing for litigation? Because after all of our meetings that we've attended, a lot of times we'll go in and there'll be a room of people, and sometimes the contractors are in those rooms and they have their, I mean, like literally you can see their shackles up, like, what? This has always been what we do. Now you're going to trust them. So anyway, what we find is that when the shackles come down and realize that what we're doing is making everyone money, because when everything is organized, you have it all ready. Just like when the FAA you get the letter, there's a vault that's prepared specifically for that FAA audit. And what Kelvin and I have decided is, in our experiences, is that when the FAA sees that you are prepared for that, then you have favor on your next conversation. Is that correct, Kelvin?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
And so when I'm sorry, go ahead. And then when you finish your thought, I'm going to add a couple of points.
I finished my thought.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of gave me a great segue. I just want to dive a little deeper again, and we're talking about record keeping and particularly how the MySmartPlans tool can help. For the most part, most of you, if you're managing an airport, you're relying on probably a consultant or advisor or someone else kind of manage the AIP program for you, including the documentations. Now that doesn't apply to everyone. I know that some of you have great staffs and great resources, and I'm sure they do a fantastic job for you, but there are all kinds of documents that may not be directly asked for in an audit, but that would probably help you respond to an audit. Now, the obvious things that are included in audit, of course, is your professional service contracts or your construction documentations, bid tabs, all that kind of stuff. Plans and specs, Exhibit A drawings. I'm going to go real fast through this. And of course, all your payment documentation, closeout, and of course the eventual closeout form, but really all billings, all RFIs, all vouchers or canceled checks or receipts or payment protests and all of the DBE compliance issues, all of that documentation needs to be captured as part of that project and associated with that AIP grant number. And again, Shelley, that's what impressed me with MySmartPlans with the tool, because just simply uploading those documents as you get them throughout the whole progress of the project, and then having Shelley's team just manage, organize, sort that for you, and then at your fingertips through the program, you can go ahead and retrieve and click what you need when you get the questions asked. I mean, there's so many documents associated with an AIP grant that it's just so much simpler, I think, to have one centralized library. So I just want to kind of keep that in mind, that everything that's produced from an AIP project, save it, store it, archive it, keep up with it.
So this brings me to one of our projects. So we're building San Antonio International Airport. But anyway, so here we're sitting in this meeting, and again, some people consider this disruptive, Kelvin. Like, this is disrupting me. I mean, no, So anyway, we go in the meeting, and the person that's in charge of all inspections for the airport, all the inspections, he comes in and he just unloads on me personally. Like, you're giving me something else to do. How is this going to help me? La, 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 la. And he wasn't like Kelvin, who's kind and has words that can convince you that, maybe you need to do it a better way. He was just straightforward with me, like, don't give me something else to do. So I listened, and then I said, would it help you if we created a portal exactly for what you're doing, and we took all your projects, all your inspection documents, made them live. You can fill them out online. You can attach all your photos and videos to us. Then we'll QA/QC them, and then we'll put them on the calendar every day, knowing that those inspections have been done. So he said, wait, what are you talking about? And I said, well, what we do is deliver solutions. And you've just given us another great idea, because the inspections are so important. Just like we had a bridge fall in Missouri here the other day. And people were killed. And so MoDOT is not our client yet, but I'm like, where's all the inspection reports? Who did the last inspection? What was the weather when they did the inspection? Was there any photos? And so this is what we're talking about, delivering results of the project, the complete forensics of the project, if you will, because every piece of data matters. We track all the emails, we track the weather. Everything is tracked as a third party. So we have no interest in change orders, which is the game. Like, the more at the end of the project, whenever you're waiting for your as-built and all those things to be turned over and you're suffering, those things are already done in our system. Like, it's all right here, point, click, it's there. It's all linked. All of the cuts go to every detail. Every RFI is linked to every document. And so that's what we're talking about, being that organized so that whenever you are going to go back for another grant or whatever it is that you're doing, you have that complete. Someone told me this morning, you're like a well-oiled machine, Shelley. And I'm like, no one would have ever told me that when I was in school, because it was like my locker was always full of all kinds of things. So with that, any other questions? Okay, did you click the link to prepare for an AIP audit? I don't think there's a link there, Kelvin. It just says.
Okay, yeah, I'm working on it.
Oh, you're working on it. Okay, well, come on. I just gave you like the cue that you're like the guy that gets everything done. So any other questions? Any other giveaways? Does anybody just want a cup of coffee that I could send you a Starbucks card electronically? Yeah, anybody want to see anything? Talk to me, anything. Cody, turn your microphone back on.
I'm still here, Shelley. Yeah, let's do this. We'll wait for Kelvin to get that link in there so folks have that information. Then we'll pause for any additional comments from the attendees, and if there are none, then we'll wrap things up here.
Okay, sounds great. Also, caveat: Dominic and I are in Nashville on Tuesday. You can look on our website and see all of our travel schedules. We have Las Vegas the week after that. Basically what we do is we come and meet you. We feel like this is not something that we can just do a webinar and say, oh, well, this is what you're going to trust us with this. So we do a lot of in-person meetings. We want to be your right arm. We want to be there with the peace of mind that allows you to support your life outside of this industry. Not that anyone would want to, think that that's an issue, but I live firsthand that. My husband had 2 pagers. And remember whenever those things were around your neck, and then he could also go, boop. I think sometimes he was pretending like, Shelley, I'm on a call, okay? I know that would never happen, but I kind of feel like it was sometimes. So, okay, take a break, y'all. Okay.
Hi,
All
What
right.
is that on your desk, Cody? Oh, Ellen, Eleni, you have a question?
I'm not really a question, just a comment that this was very informative, and thank you for sharing your insight on preparing for an AIP audit. And I'm Eleni. I'm Director of Treasury here at the Department of Aviation at Atlanta Airport. So Hartsfield-Jackson International Atlanta Airport, sorry. Didn't want to introduce myself first. But just very insightful, and thank you for sharing, and totally agree that documentation and keeping everything in one central location is very critical when it comes to AIP and the grants. So thank you for sharing that with us. And here, you know, as us being so huge, we have our own built-in system that does that here. But it was very informative, and thank you for sharing your knowledge in your company and what they do.
Thank you. We actually, every one of our clients have an internal system. So that's not unusual. I was just in Atlanta. I spoke 2 weeks ago at your chamber. I don't know if you were in that meeting, but I mean, now the big challenges are trying to get small businesses to bond their projects, and they're killing the small businesses because you can bond a project, but you don't have the data you need to make decisions. And also your bond is being held out to the end of the project. So we're able to let the small businesses have their bonds released so they can go on to another project and bond another project. So there's a lot more comprehensive things besides just the one central location. All of our data is, we support information governance. So like at the KCI project, they're using a system called Kahua. We pull all the data out of Kahua, and it's been really a great lesson for us, because we thought that the naming and numbering convention would be followed, but it's just like ASI 7 is not followed by ASI 8 or 10. It's followed by ASI number 743. And the reason that is because you can never go back. If you have to, A, fire your contractor, B, try to find your documents, it's impossible. So you can never defend your contract. So we go in with airports like Atlanta, Hartsfield. We help them rewrite their contracts. We help them understand information governance. We walk through the process from the outside in, because when you're sitting on the inside of the mountain looking out, it's like, well, you know, we're the only ones that are suffering, but actually all stakeholders are suffering trying to find audit ready data. So we're in process with LAX, we're in process with Miami-Dade. And then there's a global project that we're in the middle of that I can't talk about now. And there's also another project in the States that I'm under NDA, I can't talk about, but it is a chronic problem. So it's not here to be friends. We're not here to say, isn't this a good idea? We're here to say this is mandatory, because we're killing the industry. Small businesses cannot defend their contracts because they don't have the data to defend their contracts. I'm talking meeting minutes, agendas, all of it organized and linked in a secure vault that no one can change. So there you go.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
Oh, but Ellen,
Thank
can
you.
I send you a cup of coffee with that dissertation?
If you'd like.
Okay, put your link on there. I'm sending you, I'll send you, is it a $10 gift card, okay? Or is it gonna have to be $5?
It doesn't matter. 5 would be
Okay.
good.
Okay, cool, send it. Okay, give me your, Chelsea's online, she'll get your contact. Okay, go Kelvin.
So I'm sorry, so when you're typing fast, there are typos from time to time, but I posted a link. There's kind of three places to go. The first one I highly recommend. I gave you a link on how to get really good guidance for airport sponsors on the post-grant or the post-closeout activities, which is where you'll find a lot of the prep for audit stuff. And then you could back into that website and find other information like construction planning, et cetera, et cetera. So apologize for the typo, but I got that for you. And then just one last question, last tip, obvious question, I guess, for Nathan. If you're still there, Nathan, have you visited Tommy Dupree at the ADO? If so, how often do you visit?
Yeah, so Kelvin, I switched roles a few years ago over to the procurement side, and I don't do the construction work anymore. But yeah, we know Tommy and got a great working relationship with him.
Okay, great. All right, good, awesome. Just kind of a tip for everyone. I know everyone does this, but when you get the opportunity, just visit the FAA. They're friendly folks. They'll be happy to see you.
Okay, I want to do one shout out before we go. So Bob Bramer, my very first airport event was an SEC event in, I don't remember where I was at, South Carolina, North Carolina, some beach somewhere. Anyway, so Bob came up and he's like, I don't know, he was just so kind. And also there was another lady, Nina, from Daytona Beach, I think she's with. But anyway, I just want to say thank you to this group. You guys have the best conferences. I've been to conferences around the world now, but in 2018, I decided I'm going to build every airport in the world. And it's just the thing to have information governance. No one can change any document behind your back. And I kind of want to do a Netflix series. So if anybody wants to be a star besides Kelvin on my Netflix series, because I've been alarmed at what I've seen in the industry, and it's just status quo. And so we're here to stop status quo. And with that, Cody, you can take it away.
Great. Well, I want to thank on behalf of the group. Thank on behalf of the group, Shelley and Kelvin for sharing your wisdom today and your thoughts on the auditing process. Please do reference in the chat where Kelvin did drop some knowledge on FAA guidance on the audit process. You can also see my email address and Ryan Sizemore's email address if you would like to sponsor or participate in a future coffee conversation. And with that, I would like to say everybody have a great rest of your Friday and a wonderful weekend, and we will see you in the near future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Cody. Thanks all.
All right. Have a good day.